The human metabolic cycle operates on a strict circadian rhythm, meaning that the biological processing of macronutrients changes drastically depending on the time of day. When evaluating the impact of the evening meal, one must understand that dinner is not merely the final caloric intake of the day. It is the biochemical setup for the longest fasting period the body will endure: sleep. It is during this critical 7 to 8 hour nocturnal window that the body switches from an active, energy-consuming state into a deep, parasympathetic state of cellular repair, hormonal regulation, and memory consolidation. For decades, the standard global dinner plate has been heavily anchored by white rice, a highly refined carbohydrate that provides immediate satiety, but acts as a profound metabolic disruptor when consumed in the evening. To understand why replacing this standard evening serving of white rice with quinoa completely permanently alters your metabolic trajectory, one must strip away the culinary context and examine the deeply contrasting biochemical blueprints of these two food sources, specifically focusing on how their distinct glycemic, amino acid, and mineral profiles interact with the endocrine system in the hours leading up to sleep. White rice, particularly the universally consumed varieties like jasmine or basmati, is essentially a stripped, polished endosperm. During the milling process, the nutrient-dense bran and the lipid-rich germ are mechanically removed, leaving behind a pure matrix of starch. This highly branched carbohydrate structure, known as amylopectin, offers virtually zero resistance to human digestive enzymes. When you consume a bowl of white rice for dinner, the salivary and pancreatic amylases rapidly cleave the glycosidic bonds. This converts the starch into a massive wave of pure glucose that floods the portal vein and enters the systemic circulation. This creates an immediate state of postprandial hyperglycemia. The timing of this glucose spike is clinically catastrophic. Human insulin sensitivity naturally decreases as evening approaches, an adaptation designed to conserve glucose for the brain during the night. When this massive glucose load hits the bloodstream at night, the pancreas is forced into an emergency response. It secretes an extraordinarily high volume of insulin to clear the sugar from the blood. However, because your physical activity is rapidly decreasing as you prepare for bed, your skeletal muscles do not require this energy. Consequently, the insulin forcibly shunts this excess glucose directly to the liver. There it undergoes de novo lipogenesis, transforming into triglycerides that are subsequently stored as visceral adipose tissue. Furthermore, this nocturnal hyperinsulinemia triggers a complete shutdown of the body's fat-burning mechanisms. High levels of circulating insulin actively inhibit the enzyme hormone-sensitive lipase, effectively locking the doors of your fat cells. This prevents the beta-oxidation of stored lipids throughout the night. Your body is trapped in a state of fat storage. Instead of utilizing your sleep cycle as a prime opportunity to burn body fat, you're missing the window for basal metabolic functions. This is compounded by the fact that white rice is a state of nutritional bankruptcy. The metabolism of carbohydrates requires cellular cofactors like B vitamins, zinc, and magnesium to run the Krebs cycle and produce ATP. Because white rice is stripped of these, the body must steal these essential cofactors from its own internal reserves just to process the empty calories. You are left with a system that is insulin resistant, chemically depleted, and locked out of lipid oxidation, ensuring that you wake up feeling lethargic, slightly edematous, and experiencing a renewed craving for fast-acting carbohydrates. The substitution of quinoa into this exact evening metabolic window completely dismantles this pathological cycle. Botanically, quinoa is not a grass or a true cereal grain. It is a pseudo-cereal, a seed derived from a plant in the amaranth family. This distinction is not merely taxonomic. It defines its extraordinary biochemical architecture. When you consume quinoa, you are ingesting a highly complex, unbroken matrix of macronutrients that behaves entirely differently in the human digestive tract. The carbohydrates in quinoa are tightly bound within a dense, unrefined cellular structure and surrounded by a significant volume of both soluble and insoluble dietary fiber. When this matrix enters the stomach and small intestine, it physically resists rapid enzymatic breakdown. The result is a slow, steady, highly controlled release of glucose into the bloodstream. Because the glucose curve is virtually flat, the pancreas releases only a minimal basal amount of insulin. By keeping insulin levels low and stable during the evening, the enzyme hormone-sensitive lipase remains active. This crucial metabolic preservation means that as you drift into sleep, your body is chemically authorized to shift its energy sourcing away from circulating blood sugar and directly toward the oxidation of stored body fat, utilizing your adipose tissue to fuel the nightly repair processes of the heart, lungs, and brain. Beyond glycemic control, quinoa provides a revolutionary intervention in the realm of cellular repair due to its supreme amino acid profile. Unlike white rice, which is severely deficient in essential amino acids, quinoa is one of the very few plant sources on Earth that provides a complete protein matrix. It contains all 9 essential amino acids in highly bioavailable proportions, mimicking the biological value of animal proteins. In the context of an evening meal, the presence of these amino acids is medically vital. During the deep stages of slow-wave sleep, the body undergoes massive myofibrillar repair, fixing the microtrauma inflicted upon the muscular and skeletal systems during the day's activities. Quinoa is exceptionally rich in the amino acid lysine, a compound that is virtually non-existent in traditional grains like rice or wheat. Lysine is the absolute biological prerequisite for the cross-linking of collagen polypeptides. Without it, your body cannot efficiently repair skin, cartilage, tendons, or blood vessel walls. Furthermore, lysine is required for the endogenous synthesis of carnitine, the transport molecule responsible for carrying fatty acids into the mitochondria to be burned for energy. By consuming quinoa at dinner, you are providing the exact structural building blocks and metabolic transport vehicles required to optimize the body's nocturnal restorative and fat-burning mechanisms. The mineral synergy of quinoa further elevates its status from a mere carbohydrate source to an active metabolic regulator, primarily through its massive concentration of bioavailable magnesium. Modern populations are chronically deficient in magnesium, a dangerous state given that this mineral is a required cofactor for over 300 enzymatic reactions, particularly those involving neuromuscular transmission and endocrine balance. When you consume a heavy, carbohydrate-dense rice meal, the resulting insulin spike pulls magnesium out of the blood and into the cells, worsening systemic deficiency. Quinoa, conversely, delivers a heavy payload of this vital mineral exactly when the nervous system needs it most. Magnesium acts as a natural antagonist to calcium within the central nervous system. It binds to the NMDA receptors in the brain, blocking the stimulating effects of glutamate, which calms the firing of neurons. Simultaneously, it relaxes the smooth muscle cells lining the vascular endothelium, gently lowering blood pressure, and physically shifting the autonomic nervous system out of the sympathetic fight-or-flight mode and into a deep, restorative parasympathetic tone. This magnesium-induced relaxation is the biological foundation for deep, uninterrupted sleep architecture, which is the exact environment required for the optimization of your metabolic hormones. This brings us to the profound, cumulative hormonal shift that occurs when you maintain this specific dietary substitution over a continuous 30-day cycle. The permanent removal of the evening insulin spike allows for the unhindered secretion of one of the most powerful metabolic agents in human physiology, human growth hormone, or somatotropin. The pituitary gland releases the vast majority of its daily growth hormone in a large pulsatile wave during the first few hours of deep sleep. However, this release is highly sensitive to blood chemistry. The presence of elevated insulin or high blood glucose will actively suppress the secretion of growth hormone. By eating white rice, you chemically blindfold the pituitary gland, preventing the release of this vital hormone. By switching to the low glycemic, protein-rich matrix of quinoa, the blood sugar remains low, and the pituitary is free to release maximum levels of somatotropin. This hormone is the ultimate metabolic rejuvenator. It aggressively stimulates lipolysis, instructing the body to break down visceral fat, while simultaneously driving amino acids into the muscle cells to stimulate hypertrophy and tissue regeneration. Over a 30-day timeline, the daily optimization of this nighttime hormonal cascade leads to a permanent reprogramming of your cellular metabolism. Because the insulin receptors on your cell membranes are no longer being bombarded by massive evening glucose surges, they begin to regain their sensitivity. You are essentially reversing the underlying mechanics of insulin resistance. The chronic, low-grade systemic inflammation that is typically fueled by refined carbohydrates and high insulin begins to subside. This is measurable clinically by a reduction in C-reactive protein and inflammatory interleukins within the bloodstream. You will notice a dramatic reduction in morning edema and facial puffiness, as lower insulin levels signal the kidneys to excrete excess sodium. Furthermore, the robust presence of complex insoluble fiber from the quinoa completely reshapes your gut microbiome. The beneficial bacteria in the colon ferment this fiber overnight, producing short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. This butyrate not only heals the tight junctions of the intestinal wall, but also crosses the blood-brain barrier. This exerts a potent anti-inflammatory effect on the brain, resulting in an absence of morning brain fog and sharp cognitive clarity. Choosing quinoa over white rice is not a trivial choice. It is a targeted biohack that leverages your body's circadian biology. You are transitioning from metabolic stall, characterized by high blood sugar and suppressed fat oxidation, to active biological optimization. You provide the essential amino acids for tissue repair and critical minerals needed to force the nervous system into deep parasympathetic recovery. The low glycemic profile unlocks the nocturnal release of growth hormone, aligning your nutrition with fundamental human physiology. Every night of sleep becomes an active session of metabolic remodeling, cellular repair, and systemic rejuvenation.